Right here at KSMO Radio, we welcome you to a Tuesday morning, and we have Mr. Thom Haines in on this Tuesday morning, September 20th. My friend, it is good to see you. We used to chat quite often, once a month for many years.
Yes, many years. Actually, not to get off topic, but it was 20 years ago that the family moved here. Yeah,
Doesn't
2002.
seem that long ago.
I came here with a 5-year plan.
Yeah, I did too, back in '84. And I've outlasted you here, but you moved around. I mean, you were in so many different locations with obviously with the Forest Service, and you saw a lot of America, didn't you?
Oh yes, oh yes. The good and there's good and bad at that. The good is, we did get to see a lot of America and meet a lot of different people and see a lot of different things. America's a beautiful, beautiful country, and as we were talking earlier, very, very diverse, which is to me exciting.
Yeah.
The downside, the kids didn't see grandma and grandpa too much, and aunts and uncles. So,
Well.
but it's kind of like military life. I
Sure,
guess.
sure. Very, very, almost, I would say almost very similar to that, because wherever they needed you, you kind of say, hey, Tom, you're going to Oregon. Or, Tom, you're going to Arizona. Or,
Well,
Tom,
no, not really.
Man,
Most of it was choice.
Oh,
Okay,
by
Tom,
choice?
if you want a promotion, this is where the
Well,
promotion.
if you want the promotion,
Yeah,
there you
yeah,
go.
so.
Well, that's choice, but not really much choice. You're not going to want to stay stagnant wherever you are, especially as a young man, right?
Well, I didn't know. You live life.
Yeah.
You live life.
Well, that's just it. And all the decisions you make. Everybody says, well, why didn't you choose something else? Well, you never know what's going on at the time.
Right.
You can't really remember everything going on in your life at that time. And maybe it was time for a change. Maybe it's time to move out of that area. Maybe you'd gotten kind of blasé with the current job you had. It just wasn't exciting to you anymore. It's time to make a change.
Yeah,
And
because
you're offered an opportunity to go somewhere you've never been.
yeah, see new things, experience new experiences.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
That's what life is all about.
Oh, yes.
If you choose to.
if you choose to.
You can sit there and watch walls.
Well,
Not much to them.
One of my prayers that I pray every day is, God, please grant me the blessing to be able to see the opportunities that you present.
There you
Because a
go.
lot of times opportunities come and we just don't see them.
No. We were actually talking about the first leg of the Current River Challenge.
Yeah.
And you and the missus were out there kind of
Saturday.
bringing up the senior citizen side.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But as Tom and I were talking, I said, we may not walk at that pace anymore, but I bet we see a lot more.
Yeah.
Because you're not in a big hurry to get to the end. You're looking at the beauty of what's around you now, because that's really more important to you than trying to finish that 4.1 mile challenge.
Right. Yeah.
It's just getting through there. But it's unique, and I guess I appreciate nature more now when I get out and I see these beautiful vistas and things that you just, as a child, you just take for granted. You're too busy. You're too busy doing things in your head. You're wanting to play. You're wanting to do this. You're wanting to get to this destination, and you drive right by a beautiful monument and never even look at it.
Yep. Yep. Well, and the also thing about that hike was it was with the Park Service, and there were about 20 people participating, and the mushrooms were just all over the place.
Well, I'll bet they were.
And I learned a lot about mushrooms from the other folks that were along with the hike.
Wow.
And the ranger down there, I could kick myself. I can't remember his name. Outstanding. Both the rangers were, but the one in particular, in fact, he's coming to the Forest Service. Thank you.
Oh, very good.
Outstanding. I'm not trying to make a joke. Outstanding service. He, my wife and I had a little bit of trouble, and he stuck with us, and yeah, I was really impressed with the
Right.
service he provided.
I'm sure when you first planned on going on this late September, in mid-September, you're not thinking 90-plus degrees.
No, it was very
Yeah,
warm.
yeah.
It was
very
warm.
sticky on Saturday. You're right. Very, very tough. But that's not why we're here to talk about the Kern River Challenge and things like that. But we do highly recommend you can go on that anytime. It's really a very scenic route to take, and they do have guided
Yeah.
opportunities to go, but you can do it on your own if you're. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not a well-traveled hiker, you might want to do it with a few other people.
And as was advised to us, because the next section we're going to do it on our own at our own pace.
There you go.
But let people know where you're starting and when you anticipate being back, because there's not a lot of intersections. So if you pass out in the middle of that thing, you're going to be on your own for a bit.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that people sometimes just assume, well, I'll just use my cell phone and get out of here. No, that's not happening. And we were in Chicago here not too long ago. Saw a real good friend of mine, and he cannot believe when I tell him. I said, we have a lot of people in Dan County that still do not have cell phone service. He just goes, that cannot happen. I said, well, go on your map. Even go on the Verizon map. Go on every map, and you see that gap in Missouri. He goes, yes, that's us.
Yeah.
He goes, why is that? I said, it's a national forest. I said, they're not going to put towers in there, dude. It's not going to be there.
Bottom line, profit.
No money, and there's nobody out there.
Well, they think there's no. Don't get me started on this, Stan.
No.
Okay.
Well, you know how they judge it from all. Even now when they're doing a speed test, if they don't get a speed test from the national forest, there's nobody there.
Right. And in reality, there's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of private homes out in the middle of that. But when they can't get internet, they can't do a speed test. So if they don't come in and go online and say, I don't have it in my location,
right,
they don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a backward situation. You think that they would actually go try and find those people, and you can find them easy. All you got to do is go get the map from the assessors. You can easily go find and track who owns the property.
Yeah. Well, I was telling the ranger there that one idea I had, when I kick myself now for never following through with it, was to actually go out on the trails and find where you can get a signal, and then mark that portion of the trail. So that way, if there is an emergency on the trail, the people can say, I saw the marker just back there, let me run back there and get the call out. And then the marker would say what location you were. And, maybe that's something I'll follow through with. It'll give me an excuse to get back into the woods, too. But, because you're right. Oh, when we lost that gentleman and his two sons years ago, same situation.
Yeah, because
weather changed like that,
and they're lost.
And because it was 60 degrees that day.
Oh, it was almost 70 that day. Beautiful day, and then came the rain, and then it got cold, and
they froze to death.
They hypothermia kicks in, and especially when you're wet and cold, and it was windy too. And yes, you can maybe find a little cover from the wind, but if you're out there in that exposure, and they were there all night, you're going to have a hard time making it through. If you do survive, you're going to be suffering from that for a while. But that's not why we're here to talk about. But I tell you what, though, there's still Thom has a love for a forest that it just overwhelms you. But and which is great, and I really appreciate that. But like we're talking about, the older you get, the more appreciation you have for what nature gives you, and that's and I've learned that myself. You just really start seeing stuff for what it is instead of like, wow, we ought to tear that down. You see the importance of history. You see the importance of growing things naturally. You see the importance of what God has given us on our green earth, like bees. And that's what we're here to talk about, beekeeping and the practical beekeeper, and a gentleman who's coming to town, Mr. Michael Bush, for a one-day seminar. And Thom, the last time we had a seminar like this, SRO, it was standing room only, wasn't it?
Yeah, packed house. And Michael Bush is a great presenter, very down to earth, not very technical. I mean, so even people like me can understand him.
You might be able to get in the technical side a little bit. You've been keeping bees for how long?
About 8 to 9 years now. Yeah.
Okay. And how many hives?
I'm down to 7 now. I just lost one last week.
Ooh.
Yes. I was going through my hives about 2 weeks ago, and that last rain we had, so I had to stop. And this particular hive has been my weakest one all season long, and so I stopped. And then the other day I finally got out there and got into it, and where I had honey, it was gone, and the hive was very active, and I thought, okay, they're being robbed. And so I looked at the front of the hive, and there was no fighting going on, because normally the bees will defend their hives
Sure.
from other bees. And there's no fighting going on, but it was full of bees. And I said, you better go straight to the bottom. And so I went straight to the bottom, and the wax moths had already came in, and the hive itself had absconded and gone off. And the rest of the bees are like, hey, free honey for the picking, let's go, so they were having a day of it. And, of course, the wax moths will actually ruin your bee equipment. Mm-hmm. So I had to tear the whole thing down to prevent that from happening. But so I'm down to 7 now. So.
Well, but you've been doing it now. You have a pretty good feel for the bees in this area. Bees are not the same in areas. I mean, everybody says, oh, yeah, they go to flowers and they get the pollen and they come back. We're talking about overgeneralization, aren't we?
Right.
But there's a lot to beekeeping.
Yes, and basically, that's the fun part about it, is nothing is standard. Nothing is standard. I mean, all the way from the types of hives you can have to your goals on why you're keeping bees. Some people do it strictly for the honey. I mean, it is business.
Right. Business as usual.
And then you get other people who are just like, I just want to make sure the population of bees are present.
Which we know has been going down.
Yeah. So, in fact, I read the other day that some people are actually saying that the, I'll call them native bees, although most of the bees we have are from Europe, okay? The wild ones are pretty much gone, that everything. I don't know that personally I buy into that. I don't have any data to prove one way or the other because we just cut out a wild bee hive from a tree that had fallen down, and the hive itself was 8 inches at the large end, 6 inches at the small end, and 11 feet long.
Wow.
And Kyle gave a report on, because we cut it out. We were lucky enough, we caught the queen, thank you. And apparently they are going gangbusters at his father's farm. So,
oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. But that was a wild bees.
Right.
So.
But that's why when people say, well, where are they coming from? I mean, unless you're following that bee and knowing where it goes back to the hive, you don't know.
Exactly. And, that's another topic. We're going to talk about Michael Bush. There's another guy who was actually measuring the volume of wild beehives. And when he first did it back in the 90s, this is in upstate New York, Thomas Seeley is his name. He said, I'll pay you $10 for your tree, just let me know if you see bees. And so people sent him, well, I got bees. And he averaged that the average height of the bee colonies were 10 foot up in a tree. Well, 10, 15 years later, he decided to redo the study. And this time he went out in the woods and followed the bees back. And he learned that no, most of the hives are like 15 plus feet up. And you question, well, why did they come up with 10? Because that's as far as people could see.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and it's not always in a tree. I remember encountering bees as a young man in the ground. And it was the very first time I got stung, as a matter of fact. I was reaching down for a wiffle ball, and the next thing I know, I had 2 bees on my hand.
That's not a honeybee. That's not a honeybee.
No, I know. But I had 2 bees on my hand, and I'm like, what the heck, And I think people they see a bee, it's a bee. You don't understand. As a little kid, you're trying to shake it off, and it was protecting the hive, which I did not know was in the ground. And that was very interesting to me to see that the hive had actually been built which I never saw bees around. I cut the grass every single week. I never even saw any bees near there. And then suddenly you see one or two, not a big deal. And now you're going over it with the lawnmower, and you're getting a whole bunch of them puppy dogs coming out of there. You're blowing some air in there. And as long as you just ignore it and walk away, they didn't have a problem. But then they built another exit out of that same hive, and it was a long one. It was underneath the ground. I'd probably say about 8 to 10 feet, kind of like you're talking about. It had been there, I'm sure, for a long time, all summer long. And I didn't know it. I went over top of that one, walked right over it, and boy, I got chased again. This time I didn't get stung, but I got chased. I thought, where the heck? And so I kept just watching the bees, and they were going back, and it was just like there was grass all around the hole, and it went right down that hole. Why down here now? You got one up there. Yeah, I don't.
Well, back to what I said, this is what they do. When people first get started beehiving, we usually recommend they get 2 hives. And they will be as different as your children, as different as night and day. And that's just the way it is. Of course, for me, that's the most entertaining part about it, and learning to judge their mood and time of day. And, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, good.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, let's get back to our one-day seminar. And that's supposed to be on October the 8th and with Michael Bush. Tell us a little bit about Michael Bush, if you would.
Michael Bush, he's known as being the practical beekeeper. He has a book with the same title. You can go online and read the book for free, or you can buy it. And the thing that our club likes about him is he's pretty much a treatment-free beekeeper and doesn't use chemicals. His argument is, I'm just making the bees dependent on my stepping in to help them, and I'm making their predators stronger because they learn to adapt to these pesticides that we're now putting in their hives or treating their hives with. And most of the members of the Mark Twain Beekeepers, we follow, I shouldn't say we follow that advice, but we think along those same lines. Okay. It's like last night I was showing them how to make sugar cakes in prepping for winter. And one of the things I put in it is called Honeybee Healthy. And one of the people said, "What's in it?" And I had to say, I really don't know. I was just following the recipe, Let me see that. And they grab it and they read it, and basically it's a vitamin B supplement. That's all it is. And then we also add a little lemongrass. What's that for? What is it? Because they're concerned about what they're giving their bees to ingest.
Sure.
And I said, there is no nutritional value for lemongrass. It's just kind of a, hey, don't I smell nice? Come over here.
More for the human side of it, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
well, the bees do like it. It's an attractant to them. So I don't know if that convinced them to continue using that in the recipe or not to use it in the recipe. The bottom line, the sugar cakes are for emergency winter use. And so that's why we were showing them that.
So chemical-free, what would happen, and you're big into honey because you produce it for the farmer's market, and you have given me some of your honey before, which has been fantastic. If you do use chemicals around bees, does that end up in the honey?
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. And it ends up in the wax.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, I read about a study where this person had to go to Kenya to find beeswax that had no pesticides in it at all.
Wow.
Because, and the way this article read, even though I don't use chemicals, I can assume there are chemicals in my beeswax because other people do spray. And my bees, they will range up to 2 to 3 miles in radius, looking for pollen and nectar.
Sure.
Well, I own 2.5 acres. Mrs. Thompson, who owns a pasture behind me, she came up and bought some of my honey, and she looked at me and said, "I guess I'm just getting my honey back because my bees are in her pasture."
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if she treats or not, but still, that's the way it is.
So, I mean, anybody might even use fertilizers. I mean, and it would end up flowering. There would be some kind of possible, I'm not say pesticide, but there'd be some kind of chemical reaction in there too, couldn't it?
Could possibly be that. I really don't know. When it comes to fertilizers, but definitely, the pesticides and Roundup. It turns out that even though Roundup is for plants, well, what it does is it kills the bacteria in the gut of the bee because that's fungal plants.
I
And
see.
then it makes the bee weak and susceptible to other issues. So it's not a direct kill. It's
Yeah.
an indirect kill.
But I never knew that. I never knew that. So, yeah, I get it now. But I know when they put those products out, the last thing they were thinking about was how did it affect the bees.
Yeah. And trust me, as a gardener, I don't like weeds either. But
No.
I'm not putting it out on my plants. So.
No, I get that. So when Mr. Bush comes in, is this a question and answer type of seminar?
Both. Both.
Okay.
He comes up and he talks about, where his latest research, because he does a lot of studies, and where his latest research is leading, things that he has personally learned. He's an active beekeeper up in Nebraska, and then a lot of questions and answers, and it's very laid back. I will call it semi-studious. It's not like you go to a lecture and, the person's way down there and you can't hear him. No. This is a very more personal, hands-on kind of thing. The joke about the Mark Twain Beekeepers is we're a bunch of people that love to eat, and yes, we talk about bees. So there's usually a lot of food involved. So, and that's the way we like it.
Yeah.
And Michael Bush fits right in.
Just like being there, huh?
Ooh,
I know
good
it's
one.
bad, but it is when you get people who have the same in common interest that you learn something from them. We often talk about the different things at Wordak Farm when you get a bunch of farmers together, people who are doing whether it's working with trees or working with crops or working with the right types of grasses to get the right hay. You're going to learn something from everybody because they may have tried this, it didn't work. Hey, I've tried this and it works a lot better. You may want to try it. Of course, we all know there's different types of soils. Just like you say, there's different types of bees and the temperament of the bees and everything different. But I'm sure in the conversations you come across, hey, I never even thought about doing something like that.
And in the case of Michael Bush, if you go onto his website, I learned last night when I was refreshing my things that I knew about him, there's a football player named Michael Bush too, but that wasn't the one I was looking for. Practical beekeeper, Michael Bush. He actually has interns, so you can go up to his place in Nebraska and stay there weeks, months if you want, following him around, learning what he knows. And, he does seminars, he writes books, he has a website, so you can go on there and learn everything that he's learning and read about what he thinks is success, what he thinks is failures, why he thinks it's a success, why he thinks it's a failure. He's very, very approachable, and that's the thing that we like about him, and that's why we want to bring him back. And speaking of which, I'm going to put in a plug for this. Right now, we've only got 2 people who have expressed interest in coming to this. And if we don't have folks responding very soon, we got to know by the 24th. We may have to cancel. I'm just being honest with folks.
Yeah, I get it.
And because the club cannot afford to bring him here for 2 people.
Well, no, and you would hope more people would be interested in this because bees are very, very important for the success of crops, for the success of basically nature, because you have to have those carriers of pollen to keep things going.
Yeah, years ago, Sally bought me a CD. I forgot the title of it, but it's about beekeeping. They talked about this place in China that has used so many pesticides, they have no natural pollinators anymore.
Wow.
And they literally have to pollinate their apple crop by hand.
That's crazy.
Yes. They get these little buckets of pollen, and they climb up on these ladders, and every little blossom of the apple tree, they sprinkle with pollen, because there's nothing there to naturally do it. On a side note, which I find very interesting, they did notice their crops increased because people are more determined on pollination
Sure.
than bees are. Bees are kind of like, wow, look at the blessing I got, and they don't pay attention. They just do it. But still, could you imagine, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be an apple pollinator. I don't think so.
Yeah, that probably wasn't first on my list.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. So we'll leave it up to the bees because they've done a beautiful job for all of humanity. And not just honeybees, but bumblebees. Honeybees cannot pollinate tomatoes. They're not big enough.
I didn't know that.
Yes, bumblebees are a lot bigger and heavier. They can
yeah, they
pollinate
are.
tomatoes. But, I mean, it just goes to show you we need all of these critters. And granted,
Sure.
my interest is really in honeybees, but yeah, we need all of them.
So, the Beekeepers Association, tell us a little bit about Mark Twain Beekeepers. Now, you're a member of that association. Is this a growing organization? And, I mean, you guys have been around for a while now.
Last night we had, I think it was 25 people at the meeting.
Okay.
And again, the topics that we were talking about were making sugar cakes and prepping for winter. We've got several new beekeepers. We have high schoolers all the way up to old folks like myself. When we have our meetings, they're open. If you got kids, bring your kids. In case of this one high schooler, he brings his dad. Now, that's curious, but he does. And, he has a lot of questions, and sometimes I have to shake my head, and I don't know the answer to that, because that's the fun thing about beekeeping is it's not cut and dry.
No.
It's very different, and your bees are going to be different than mine. The one thing about our club is, we lean towards treatment free. There's a big bug out there. I shouldn't say big because it's quite small, called a Varroa Mite, and it is playing havoc on the bee population.
Wow.
Imagine a tick the size of your hand on your back eating your liver.
No, thanks.
That's a Varroa Mite to a honeybee.
Wow.
It eats an organ called a fat body. And
Okay.
again, it just makes the bees very, very weak, very, very sick, susceptible to other issues. And so that's the bug of the day, if you will. And there are other ways to get around it. The Varroa Mite has been on the planet Earth forever. And the native bees, where the Varroa Mite comes from, the way they deal with it is they have small cells because instead of taking 21 days to produce a new bee, they can do it in 18 or 19.
I see.
So it's a little bit shorter so the Varroa Mite can't get its propagation done.
Right.
Also, they swarm because, again, that's called a brood break. So us as modern-day beekeepers, some of the things we can do is go to small cell foundation, wax foundation,
Okay.
let the bees build their own foundation, which they do naturally anyways, and then also doing brood breaks where you literally capture the queen for about 2 weeks. Honey, you're going to take a break for 2 weeks. No laying of eggs. And it totally upsets the reproduction cycle of the Varroa Mite.
I see.
And now, granted, you're still manipulating, okay, because no one really wants their bees to swarm, okay, but there's no chemicals involved.
Yeah.
And you're not using acetic acid, which can burn the bees. It's still an acid. Everyone says acetic acid is natural. Yes, it is natural. But if not used properly, you can burn your bees.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of stuff, Tom.
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
like-
And
But this is what Mr. Bush will be talking about.
Yes.
This is what your Mark Twain Beekeepers will be talking about. This is an all-day event, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.,
yes,
right?
yes.
And it's going to be located where?
Well, we haven't found a location yet,
Okay.
so that's still up in the air. But we're going to do that.
Still haven't got that. Still waiting to see if we have enough for the
Yes,
for
that's
the
the big thing.
seminar.
We
Okay.
gotta know how many folks are interested because if the numbers aren't there, we'll have to wait till springtime to bring him on because we do want to bring him back to the community.
Absolutely. So the easier way to do this is to send an email, right?
Right, to
to the beekeepers, whoever's in charge this week. I don't know.
No, it's
I'm
funny.
getting
It's funny
that.
you say that because our coordinator had a motorcycle accident Sunday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's why she's not here today.
Okay.
She's doing okay. Thank you. But still, she was injured.
Okay. So we're going to send an email somewhere, right?
Yes, and if you go to Mark Twain Beekeepers
Okay.
on Facebook,
All right.
you can respond that way, and that would greatly be appreciated because it's been several years since I personally have seen Mike, and I would love to see him again. He's a fun person to be around and to talk with.
Okay. So if you email us off, how do you send your check or money order or cash?
That Brenda's going to have to get with you about because, to be quite honest, I really don't know.
Okay.
The one or two people who already have, they just sent her a check. So,
I mean, with the time closing in,
Yeah.
and you know how fast our mail service is.
yeah. And, now that you mention that, that's a very good idea. I probably should get a hold of Brenda because the last I talked with her, she was still in the hospital. So maybe Greg or myself or someone else will have to be the recipients of those funds
Okay.
and hold them. So, but
Why don't you
thank-
check on that and let us know, and then
Okay.
we'll get the word out, that they can sign up for that. So Michael Bush is in town one day only, and that's going to be what day, Tom?
That is going to be on I'm looking over my thing here, October 8th. How can I forget October 8th? Yes. Everything's coming down on October 8th. That is going to be one busy day in our community. Let me tell you, October 8th. And unfortunately, the other two things I should be at, I won't because I will be here with Michael Bush.
There you go. Very good. All right. So again, how much does it cost to attend a seminar?
It is $45 per person or $75 for a couple. And again, it's not inexpensive to get Mr. Bush here.
No, I'm sure it is.
It's costly to get a good speaker to come down and talk.
Now we're talking 9 to 5. That includes a lunch, so
Yes.
you're going to get fed, and
Yes.
you're going to learn a lot. And I mean, you're going to get.
You're going to learn more than you ever want to know, so make sure you bring your notebook.
Oh, absolutely.
I would also say make sure you bring your iPhone or your phone to take pictures of things because there's going to be more information than you want to deal with.
Very good. So one of the things, before we get down talking about Michael Bush, the Mark Twain Beekeepers Association, if people are interested in becoming a member, how do they find out more, especially if we have kind of one of our key people out right now?
Yeah. Okay. My first suggestion is to go on to Facebook.
Okay.
And just Mark Twain Beekeepers. And the reason we call ourselves Mark Twain Beekeepers is because we didn't want to be Salem Beekeepers because then the people in the county may not feel welcome. We didn't want to be Did County because then the people outside of the county, like we have several members who, one's in Texas County, one's in Reynolds County. So being as we're surrounded by the Mark Twain National Forest, the group named itself Mark Twain Beekeepers. Lo and behold, no one had taken the name yet.
That's amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
It is amazing.
So that's the reason we call ourselves Mark Twain. We want anyone who is interested, come on down. We meet the third Mondays of each month.
Okay.
You ideally need to get onto Facebook because we change locations all the time.
Okay, I can see that though.
Like last night, the people at VIP Properties were generous enough to let us use their meeting room. So
Which
we met,
is beautiful, by
Yeah.
the way.
which we met there. Next month, it's going to be at Karen's place, which is out past the airport. And so every month it changes. This time of year, we actually suit up. We go out, we look at bees, see what's happening with that person's colonies. Like 2 meetings ago, we got into Mike's colony. He had checked his colony 2 weeks prior to us being there.
Oh.
And within that time, wax moths had totally taken over his whole colony.
No.
Yes. It was the slimiest mess any of us had ever seen. And he was crushed.
man,
I
he'd
was
be
crushed.
devastated,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was, but that's the thing about beekeeping. What he did right, what he did wrong, who knows? 2 weeks. 2 weeks that change
It's
happened.
amazing. Just
Yeah.
miss one little thing and it can.
Exactly. And so he wasn't expecting the bee club to see that. I'm quite sure he was very embarrassed too, but that's what we got
But
to
that's
see.
educational, though, Tom. It
Exactly.
is.
Exactly, and that's why we go to different beekeepers' apiaries to see how they're doing things. And you get to ask questions. Like last night, we were talking about putting mouse guards on for winter.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, quarter-inch mouse guards, hardware cloth. Me, half-inch hardware cloth for my mouse guard. And Greg insists, I've had mice get through that, da 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 da. And I'm thinking, well, okay, I've been doing this for 6 years now. I've never had a mouse get through mine. But the thing I don't like about the quarter-inch is coming springtime, if you don't get that guard off in time,
Yeah.
the bees lose a lot of pollen trying to get back into the hive. So I don't like that. I want them to get all that pollen that they've gathered into their hive. And again, is he wrong? Am I wrong? Is he correct? Am I correct?
I think it's personal preference.
Thank
is what it is.
Thank you. And that's what you learn. So,
Yeah.
anyways, but
And you experience. I'm sure you keep a journal every year of what
Yes.
you've done and how successful it's been, and the weather situation.
well, another thing,
And-
we have a brand new beekeeper, Jennifer, and forgot her husband's name, Steve. Yeah, and I was over helping them with their hives, and she yanks out this spreadsheet on her journal, and I'm like, whoa, can you send me a copy of that? So here, these brand new beekeepers are teaching an experienced 8 to 9 year beekeeper something.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's great. So,
And like I said though, but you have to take every situation that happens, weather, heat, hot temperatures, moisture content,
cloud cover,
winds,
time of day.
yeah. So there's a lot to keep track of,
Yep.
but at the same time, then you find a pattern. You
start to see patterns, yeah.
Absolutely, and then so that's how you learn about your bees,
Right.
and that may not work for the guy 2 miles down the road.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I was reading a thing on somebody saying, "Oh, I've got all these black bees. What are black bees?" And somebody wrote back, "Oh, that means they're old. They've lost all their hair." And it's kind of like, no. It's just the variety of bee. In fact, there's an organization in Ireland. Their whole thing is to propagate or keep the black Irish bee. That was a native bee of Ireland
Really?
and Northern Europe, a black bee.
I didn't know that.
Most people don't know that.
Wow.
Because they know about Italian bees and they know about Russian bees and colonial bees. No, there are all kinds of different honeybees. There's a honeybee in Costa Rica. It's a stingless bee.
My kind of bee.
Yes. So there are all kinds of honeybees, and it's really. I'm sorry, I'm getting off
No.
track here.
It's very interesting because then this is the stuff you learn when you attend the beekeeper meetings, and especially the seminar with Mr. Michael Bush. He'll answer those questions. If you have a question about
Yes.
the different types of bees and do they do things differently? Is that black bee different than that Costa Rica bee? Why would it be different? And he can answer those questions.
Is there really a difference?
Is there really a difference? Obviously there is. One stings, one doesn't.
Yeah, in the case of the stingless bee in Costa Rica, yeah.
Big difference right there. But there are so many differences. It's just, it's like dogs. People say, we have a dog. What kind of dog? I have a collie. No, I have a German Shepherd. No, I have a poodle. Well, they're all the same. No, they're not all the same. They don't look the same. They don't act the same. And maybe to the common person like myself, I see a bee. You see a bee. You recognize it as a bee, but do I look to see what the coat is? Is there color to it? Is it dark? Is it light?
Yeah.
Does it have large wings, small wings? Do I pay attention to it? And if it lands on me, I do.
Yeah, especially if you're allergic.
Yeah, but there's so many different things that people don't know, Tom, and this is a great education tool. And if you can, please sign up for this Michael Bush one-day seminar, October 8th.
Yes.
And you do need to sign up quickly. Tom's going to get back with some information a little bit later on, and we will pass that on. And because of the situation right now with Brenda, and
so
it's unfortunate. I'm glad she's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not probably feeling the best right now, but
no, her daughter wrote she walked 20 feet 5 times today.
Well,
So she's hurting.
better than 10 feet 5 times.
Yeah, or no feet.
Or no feet,
Yeah,
yeah.
so.
So we wish her a speedy recovery, but in the meantime, we will get some other information to you. But if you're very interested even in the Mark Twain Beekeepers Club,
Please, please.
check out their Facebook page.
Check out the Facebook page. Please come down and feel more than welcome to join us at our meetings. We have, for years, had one guy, he never even kept bees. He just loved, he used to when he was younger. He doesn't now. In fact, that's one of the things Michael Bush talks about, how now that he's getting older, having to lift the weight of the beehives to manipulate them and work with them. So for those like myself who are older and lifting weight is a challenge, Michael Bush would be a good person to talk with about, okay, old man, how are you approaching
Yeah.
this topic now? So, yeah.
You're going to find out a lot about leverage. I bet you will.
Ooh, oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Because you figure out a way to do these things.
Yes, you do.
So you get a little bit of ingenuity to your beekeeping, and you may find something that all of a sudden becomes a great invention for you, and you can patent it and make a lot of money.
Who knows? It's
Yeah,
been
that's
done
how things
before.
work.
That's been done before.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
how things happen.
Yeah, Langstroth, who most beekeepers use his style of hive, he found out about bee space through an accident. He was having issues with the bees welding together his frames to the lid of the hive. And one time he made a mistake and he left a gap. And he learned that about a quarter inch to 3/4 of an inch is a thing called bee space. And the bees will not fill that in. But it was all an accident. And when he figured that out, he started putting that gap
And every one of
in
them.
every one of them.
And now that's standard.
Now that's standard.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you learn by accident.
Yes, you
Sometimes
do.
we make accidents and don't even know it, and we find out later how good of a job we did, and
Right.
we'll take all the credit for it.
Yes, we will. Yes,
Tom,
we will.
again, Michael Bush, one-day seminar, October 8th. To be determined where it will be held, but please, if you're interested, get your reservation in by the 24th.
By the 24th,
We'll give you more
please.
information on that. $45 per person, $75 per couple. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
That's a very good. It'll be from 9 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. They will serve you lunch, and as Tom said, they like to eat. So
Yes.
obviously, it's not just going to be wafers and a Coke.
No, no. My wife, in fact, last night, she made pozole with blue beans. No, blue corn. Blue corn, yes. It was delicious.
I'll bet you. I'll tell you what. So now all of a sudden we're getting gourmet food.
You know my wife.
I know your wife. I do. She's a wonderful woman. And I'm
Very adventurous.
And she takes a lot of pride in what she does too.
Yes,
So
she does.
yeah, so no doubt that was probably scrumptious, taking an old Dairy Queen term right there.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
no doubt about it, but very good. Mark Twain Beekeepers and Michael Bush coming to town. And again, we invite you to that October 8th. If you want to learn about beekeeping, or maybe you just want to find out if this is something you'd even want to do,
Exactly.
it's worth the time to go to the seminar and find out just what's involved. Because a lot of people think, I wouldn't mind doing that. And it can't be that hard.
It can be.
Anything can be. But is it worth it? Is the time invested worth it?
Yes.
And I can't answer that question for Thom Haines, and I can't answer that question for anybody else. But is it worth it for me? Is that going to give me something to concentrate or focus on, make me sharper, make me think, something I really put my teeth into and sink in a lot of my time? Yeah.
Do I want just 2 hives, or do I want to go crazy and go like Thom, 8 to 9, 8 to 10 hives,
Yeah.
Or even greater than that? Do I want to become a commercial beekeeper?
Yeah, there you go.
I've had a lot of requests lately for people who want me to bring my hives out to their place to help pollinate their gardens and flowers. I have to say no, because about 10 hives is about all I can take care of.
Yeah, I'll bet it is. So,
So-
but we want to thank you for coming in and spending some time with us. And again, we'll get you the other information you need. Tom will get that to me here in just a little bit. We'll put it out on our Facebook page and we'll
Thank
get
you.
it posted. And hopefully we'll have that in your Will of the Day tomorrow as well. So we'll get that out there so everybody gets an opportunity to sign up for the one-day seminar with Michael Bush. It's coming up October 8th. It seems so far away, but it's not very far away at all. So hopefully you get a chance to attend this, and if you are interested, and again, if you have any questions, you can send an email to marktwainbeekeepers@gmail.com. You can send that to them, and they're going to get back to you sooner or later.
Right.
Don't expect it just to right off the bat. Probably.
I'm going to call Brenda.
If Brenda is a little bit laid up, then maybe she's out trying to walk 25 steps. Who knows?
Yeah.
I hope she is.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, again, we want all people to know this is welcome to everybody. You don't have to be a beekeeper to attend this. It's open to anyone if you'd like to hear about our nature, really, because this really is a key part of our nature and how to keep it going.
Thank you, Stan. I really appreciate the opportunity and time.
Tom, always a pleasure to have you in, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay.
All right. Thank Thom Haines from the Mark Twain Beekeepers. Michael Bush, one-day seminar, October 8th. Sign up as soon as you possibly can. Again, they need to have some idea about attendance by Saturday. So, Saturday, 24th. I'm thinking, that might be Sunday by Saturday. So, again, we're going to get all the information out to you. But, again, thank you to Thom Haines for coming in, spending time with us here on KSMO AM 1340, FM 95.7, and online at KSMOradio.com and on our KSMO Facebook stream.